This is podcast 288. We'll be back here with Karoline Leavitt, a great woman who ran for Congress last year. Youngest woman ever run for Congress. How are you, Karoline?
Hey, I'm doing great, Brian. Thanks so much for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Thanks for letting me come on the show today. So tell me a little bit about your early career and kind of your upbringing as a child, first and foremost.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in New Hampshire, born and raised in a little town called Atkinson, which is just over the border from Massachusetts. I grew up in a working class small business family. We owned a used truck and car dealership and auto body shop, and we also owned an ice cream stand in my hometown. So I grew up scooping ice cream cones with my mother at our family business. I was educated in New Hampshire and was the first in my family to graduate with an undergraduate degree. I went to St. Anselm College in Manchester on a softball scholarship. And when I was there, quickly learned it wasn't sports and softball I was interested in anymore. It was politics.
Yep.
St. Anselm is a hub for political activities. Each and every cycle, all of the candidates go to St. A's. The debates are held there. I was there in the 2016 election, and it was really inspiring to me. So I threw myself into every opportunity that I could. I started a club on campus, broadcasting club. I worked at WMUR-TV, the local news station here in New Hampshire. And then I applied for an internship at the White House. And much to my surprise, I was accepted into the program. So I went down to D.C., having never been there before in my life, took the internship, and it led to a full-time job. So I was 20 years old working in President Trump's White House as a writer. I was writing speeches and letters and messages for the president and the first lady. I did that role for about a year and a half. And then it led to a promotion in the White House press office, and then my career took off from there.
So do you have your own podcast at all? Because if you had your own podcast, I would listen to it. I know you do Howie Carr show a lot, or Grace's show. That's how we actually connected.
I don't have my own podcast yet. I will say I've been thinking about creating my own podcast, and it's something I've been doing some research on and looking into. So stay tuned, Brian.
Yes. Let me ask you this question about Trump. So, all right. So you know me, I love Trump. I met him once too. Very nice guy. But why doesn't the media why doesn't the media understand that he's a nice person? He's a very caring person. He loves his fans. We know that. From listening to Rise. I know from listening to Rise at least. How come a lot of people you think don't know that he is a caring, gentle, kind person? A lot of people don't seem to or want to understand. I should say they don't want to understand he's a nice person. I know that he is. We know that you know that he is. But how come other people that, quote unquote, can see visually, but I can't, but I can see how nice he is? How come a lot of people that don't understand that, you think?
Yeah, well, it's a good point, Brian, because the media never talks about who Donald Trump is as a person. And I can tell you, working for the guy firsthand, I was in his press office, I worked in his West Wing, I helped him before every press briefing that he had for many, many weeks on end. And I worked for his press secretary, Karoline, who was very close to the president.
Yeah.
He is nothing but kind to those around him. He's funny, he's charming. And, if you talk to employees that have worked for him at the Trump organization in New York for years, they speak very highly of him too and his generosity to those that are in his life. So the media will never talk about that because here's the thing. The mainstream media is the third arm of the Democrat Party. They are their propaganda machine. And so it does not serve their interest to talk about how great of a person Donald Trump is or how great his policies were for America because they are in the pocket of the swamp, which means not just the Democrat establishment and the deep state who Donald Trump certainly interrupted and tried to drain when he was in office, but also the Republican establishment. President Trump broke a lot of norms amongst the Republican ranks, and there's a lot of deep state actors, bureaucrats, longtime government officials who don't like the approach that he took to D.C. very much. People don't like change, especially when they are profiting off of the status quo. Donald Trump interrupted that status quo, and that's why the establishment in Washington and their media machine hated him and still hate him so much.
Yes. So I got to say something pretty cool. I told Grace this earlier. I don't know if you do. Have you ever heard any Trump impressions done before by anybody before? Any Trump impressions done before by anybody?
Oh, no, I haven't.
So I worked on mine for a year when we were in lockdown. Actually, I spent lockdown year working on that when we were in lockdown for a year. I spent the whole year working on that. Believe it or not. If he ever met you, I think he would say, "We love Karoline. Right? Karoline, we love Karoline. Don't we love Karoline Leavitt?" Did he ever say that to you? Like, was there ever a point where like he liked you that much where he said to you, "Don't we love Karoline?"
Well, I have to say, Brian, that's actually pretty good. And he has said that before. After I won the primary here in New Hampshire, my congressional race, he and I spoke for almost an hour on the phone the next day. And he put out a tweet saying, Karoline Leavitt is fantastic. We love her. And that's exactly what he said on the phone. And every time I speak to him since, he sounds just like that. So your year of practice was in good measure.
So, funny question. When you read his True Social posts, right? I'm just curious. Do you read them in your own Trump voice? Because when I read what he puts out, I can't read it without doing the voice, I feel like. I mean, I don't know if you do, but I think when I read the post that he puts out, I can't read it without doing his voice, I feel like. I don't know if you get that vibe, but what do you think?
Yeah, no. It's definitely him sometimes, and then other times I can tell that it's his team. I have a few good friends that work on his team down at Mar-a-Lago, and so they do help. Of course, they push out statements for him and they write stuff for him, but he's very involved in every word that goes out, as we knew, through his Twitter account when he was president.
Yes. So, are you on Rumble at all? Do you have a Rumble account of yourself yet?
I don't have Rumble, but I do have everything else.
Okay. Now, let me ask you a question about this. Trump and DeSantis. So, I know they were buddy for a long time, and I get that. What do you think changed? Because I have a theory on that. I have a theory I want to share with you, if you wouldn't mind. What I think the theory is. So, I think when the booster first came out, and they asked Ron to hit the booster, he didn't answer the question. I think that's when Trump said. You got to say if you took it regardless. So you can't be afraid to say it. I think that's what started this. I don't want to call it a fight, but just a bit of a disagreement. I don't know. I mean, am I wrong in my assessment of that situation, or do you think I'm trying to exaggerate as possibly can when I say that? I mean, that's what I think might have started this little bit of a, again, line of fight, just like some tension, I guess.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. I think the tension, maybe you're right, Brian. I'm not sure. I have not been read into those conversations about what has gone on, but I think now, obviously, Ron DeSantis is running for president. You have two guys that have big egos, no doubt about it, and that's no fault. You have to have an ego to run for office. Believe me, I did it. You have to have that much confidence in yourself. So the competition is definitely fueling, and it's going to be an interesting race.
Now, do you think Trump's going to get the New Hampshire primary vote? I mean, because honestly, I believe he will. I think he'll win New Hampshire pretty handily. What do you think?
Yes, I do. I have said that, and I believe it. I'm sticking to it. I think Donald Trump will absolutely win the New Hampshire primary next February. I think a lot of people are going to be shocked by that, but they should not. He has a strong base here, and he was just here about a month ago. I went to his speech in Concord, New Hampshire, and the crowd was fired up at what he had to say.
Now, when you watch the rallies, do you see him mingling after he speaks? Like when you listen to him, like when you've been to the events before, do you see him mingle after a little bit?
Yes.
Yes. And let me ask you this question as well. When you do debates like that, and you've debated before in different clubs, do you get heated or do you remain pretty calm in most debates when you've done them before?
Well, I try to remain calm because you don't want to seem like a firecracker or a hothead, because then people will say, oh, he's got too much emotion. He can't be in Congress. So I always try to remain calm, but sometimes there were things that were said that really pissed me off, and I would not be able to control it. However, I did always just try to remain calm and gracious, and remember, it's about the voter, not so much my opponents, and portraying, myself in a positive way to them. So it is frustrating, especially when people are lying about you. Brian, I don't know if you knew this, but there was more than $40 million spent against me by both the Republicans and the Democrats throughout my entire campaign. It was one of the most hotly contested, expensive races in the whole country in terms of outside spending. And so there was a lot of attacks hurled at me, and I just had to remain calm and focused and remember what I was doing this for in the first place, which was to earn the trust and support of voters. And voters are very smart. They know now, frankly, because of Donald Trump, that if you're getting attacked, it probably means you're the candidate that they should vote for. And so I wore the attacks as a badge of honor rather than getting upset and frustrated by them. And I just kept charging ahead, and that's my advice to anyone that wants to run for office.
How do you feel about the New Hampshire chairman that just got put in place about a month ago? I know you were at that event.
Yeah, Chris Ager is our new chair. I'm meeting with him for lunch next week, and I'm looking forward to it. He is, I think, going to bring good and new things to the party. It was time for a new change in leadership, and so I'm hopeful that he will bring in more resources for our party, help our candidates up and down the ballot, especially for critical races like school board and budget committees in our towns. Those are really, really important seats, and we need more good conservative, freedom-loving, low-tax people to step up and run, and I think he's going to do a great job with his vice chairman, who's a gentleman by the name of Ryan Durrell, who's also very impressive, has great, big, bright ideas for the future of our party, and I look forward to watching both of them do great things and working with them to help as well.
So I'm in Massachusetts, right? I think I told you before. I'm in the Massachusetts, Boston area, and we have a new GOP chairperson now. But our old one, I think, was better than the new one we have now because our old one was pure MAGA, and I'm friends with the guy. He's a great guy named Jim Lyons, actually. He was the old chairman of our party in our state. But who we have now in our chairperson is a lobbyist type. Now, what do you think we can do in our state, in Boston, to get that New Hampshire like mentality? Because I think New Hampshire is more, I think, our new chairwoman now is a lobbyist. She's not MAGA at all. And I think the more MAGA, the better. I mean, that's how I feel about it. I mean, what do you think we can do in our state? Because our state's pretty blue in our state. You've probably seen that before in Boston. What do you think we can do in our state? Because, again, our chairperson is a lobbyist, she's not MAGA. Not like our chairman was.
Yeah. It's hard in Massachusetts because you do have so many Democrats throughout the state. So it's very, very difficult to get people. But, I think, unfortunately, it has to get worse before it gets better. I mean, we just saw this in Chicago with the election of Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Yeah.
She's out. She was fired by her constituents. Why? Because people were getting shot in record numbers. People were dying, losing their lives on the streets of Chicago. Young children being shot in broad daylight. And so citizens finally wake up to, we cannot live with this leadership anymore. We need to make a change. So Massachusetts has not gotten to that point of Chicago or New York City, but I truly believe that it will if it continues down this road of electing derelict Democrats who don't care about public safety or care about fiscal responsibility. When taxes continue to increase, you guys just passed the millionaire's tax, you just passed the licenses, driver's licenses for illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
Those were measures that were voted in by the people. So that tells me that the electorate down there is moving further and further to the left, and until the left hits them in the face like a bat out of hell, I don't see much change happening, unfortunately.
Now, do you think Trump's listening to his critiques? I think Trump. I'm noticing this about Trump now. I notice that he's different now. I think he's a lot more, not mellow, but I think he's a lot more. He's less reactive to critiques. I think he's a little more calmer now. I noticed a change in him. I've noticed a little bit of a change in him. I noticed he's a bit of a change a little bit in him now, somewhat, for the better. On Trump, like I've noticed he's still feisty, but I think he's a little more. He's less. What's someone want to use? Maybe come up with the term to use here. Less reactive, and he thinks about what he's saying more. I'm noticing that. Have you noticed that a little bit with him? Like
yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think that I've seen that happen. I think that he's maybe learned from the past, and whenever you serve in office or whenever you run a campaign, you always learn new things, and I'm sure he's applying some of that, and he has also a new team around him who could be giving him new advice too.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Caroline. So it's been a great interview, Caroline. You've been a great guest today, and hope we can keep in touch. I'll look forward. When you do a podcast, I want to be the first person to listen to it. When you do a podcast, I really hope I get a chance to listen to it. And
I appreciate that. I'm going to keep working on it, and we're doing some exciting things. So please stay tuned, and anyone that is listening can follow me on my social media handles, which are Karoline Leavitt, Karoline with a K, Leavitt, Leavitt. And please give me a follow. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Caroline.
Bye-bye.